Hey, Grand Chill. Chilling in the humble abode, I guess you could say. Happy Sabbath and everything. No, I ain't in the church building. I done kind of stopped doing that now for years now. But as you know, I'm kind of hard on now, the body being the temple. And that old fashioned where they said the saying where two or more gathered, I guess, in God's name. Not the quote, but he'll be there. Them kind of discussions. Still my cup of tea, as so to speak. Ain't no one in here like that, so my version now, when I'm at home, I get into, if I'm not exercising, chilling, I'm watching people exercising, fitness, motivation. If I'm watching some kind of maybe sermon or something that chilling, relaxing, making movies, I'm not at work now. Things kind of messed up at work, so I don't know when I'll be heading back, if I'll be heading back to there. But still the Sabbath anyway, so I'm doing it my style for right now at least. I know it's real hard to try and, find work nowadays, seemingly where people won't seem to want you to work on the Sabbath for whatever reason, if there's a reason. But those of you that can, do it. Take your Sabbath day rest, don't work. But then remember, there was that one time in the Bible where they actually tried to get on Jesus about, I think he healed somebody on the Sabbath. And that's the example. So, yes, you're supposed to not work on the Sabbath, but there's some times where you might have to until, you don't have to pray about it. If you need to ask for forgiveness, well, that's kind of what you got to do. That's why sometimes daily prayer is a thing for some folks. Anyhow, this one's about fitness. I see a lot of people out there putting their, their fitness stats online. Bodybuilders and things, strength trainers, just to give idea of what their type of training has done for them, what they've been able to accomplish, you could say. They have their stats, so they bench this much and squat this much. I can't remember if I've ever actually done one of those. If I has, it was like maybe years ago, or maybe on another app, social, Facebook. Maybe when I was still on Facebook or something, I might have posted something about it. But as I haven't really been 100% into say bodybuilding, I've been more of I've always been like cross training style. I do my full body routines that you would see the bodybuilders do, but the size doesn't always come with the other things I do, kind of leveling it off or balancing it out. And there's times when I will get bigger. I've noticed I do get bigger if I'm only in the gym bodybuilding, but I still like to run around and do other stuff. So that kind of tends to pull some of the size and I don't know strength weight, but definitely pulls a lot of the calories into more performance rather than growth. I guess you could say for muscle building. Strength, I haven't really noticed a whole lot of change. Sometimes maybe a slight difference with you know strength and stuff like that. I've noticed when I do the other things instead of just only focusing on say lifting or gym style lifting weights, conventional weights kind of training. But I wouldn't say it's a whole lot, if at all. In some cases, maybe more. But as I recall, let me see if I could go down the list of what I actually lift when I was, more or less fully gym training, or when I get into gym more, I should say. Sometimes you can't afford it, but when you do, you kind of keep a mental note at least of what you've accomplished, your PRs and that kind of thing. If I could start out from bottom to top foundation, I don't think anybody ever really goes into specifics about the amount they do for, say, calf raises, but conventional weights, I guess, what they use for, I guess, say, bodybuilding or powerlifting, squats on a regular squat rack. I remember in Club One before I left. This was like right after my knee surgery. I had, I think, 5 plates on each side. Can't remember whatever that is. Y'all could do the math on it. But I didn't do a full rep out. But if I was to say my one rep max, it would have probably been that. I was still partially 100% solid on one leg, and maybe just like a month or two out of surgery on my my right knee. This is like years ago, probably 12, 13 years ago when I first came home. So if my leg was, both of them were, fully, you know, back to the way they're supposed to, there'd probably been a lot more, but I've never really had anything more than that on the bench, on the bar for squats. I don't know. I think I maybe just worked up to it, maybe a one rep max workout or something that I know I was kind of working with somebody at that particular time. Just maybe just doing a little quick squat routine, squat workout. So I didn't try to push it more than that because I was still healing. But let's go ahead and say 5 plates on each side for one rep. I can remember when before I really 100% got into, say, full body lifting, for, say, maybe 14, 15, 16 years old, I started doing little light curls and stuff like that, the little DP set we had at the house. It wasn't nothing much on it. I don't think it was more than, maybe, if it was 100 pounds, that was plenty with all the weights. The old skinny bars back in, the day when they started making little, take home sets you could keep in house, DP sets, that kind of thing. Or Weeder, I think mine was. But from them days, came home from school, I got into a bit of routine. One of my frat brothers and stuff had a little weight set at the house. I used to go out and use whenever I could. Kind of thought it was kind of weird that the whole time I was in college, the first time I was never even told that we even had a gym there until it was like my last semester. After being there for like 2 years, I had no idea there wasn't even a gym there. That kind of, I don't know, made me feel kind of bad. Like somebody would know how much I was into, fitness and stuff like that, and nobody even mentioned that there was a gym. And I'd gone there to play soccer. So I'd been in the gym, in the showers, and never heard anybody mention. I seen the baseball players and stuff, some of them looking real buff and bulky and thing, but not once anybody mentioned that there was a gym until I just so happened to notice somebody coming out of the gym looking like they had just been, kind of working out. And then I asked, well, what's going on? What's going on in the back there? Then somebody said, okay, there's a gym. Went in to check it out. Yeah, it's a pretty solid gym. I think I might have worked out maybe once in there, but I don't know. I was kind of disappointed. But that ain't the story. Came home. I was more or less fully into my push-up routines and what I don't know if you call them jumping jacks, but I used to do like jumping jacks kind of style workout with little 5 pound weights, just hold them out to the side and do my little bouncing without the rope. And then I was kind of in my Mike Tyson shadow boxing routine for my my workouts back then. Hard on push-ups mainly, but came home, still on my push-up routine. Nothing much else, no curls, push-ups, and whatever you call them, jumping jack with the weights and stuff. Cousin took me to the gym one time. He was a big, into bodybuilding kind of big dude. And they have this, I don't know if it's called a hack squat. It's the one where you kind of lay on your back and you push up with the weights, stack the weights on the side, and you kind of, just lay on your back and push up. I think I did, what was it, 10 plates on each side for like, I don't know, 9 or 10 reps. And that was before I'd actually started actually really getting into any kind of weightlifting at all, much less legs. I hardly ever used to do legs other than a little bit of running around. When it was soccer time, it was more or less my leg routine. I didn't like doing legs at first, or actually chest for some reason. I didn't get into push-ups till years after I, really got into fitness. Curls is what I started with, 16 years old, and those was only like 10 pounds each. So used to rep out with them. But top to bottom, I think that was my heaviest press with the legs. And like I said, that was after working out for a full, workout, 3 sets or whatever it was, 9 or 10 reps with whatever it was, like nine plates on each side, 9 or 10 plates each side. Squats was like 5 plates each side. Up until then, I'd kind of more or less only used the Smith machine, and I'd do 10 reps of. I think I'd gotten up to one time doing 10 reps of 4 plates on the Smith machine. I said I never really tried to overpower my legs because I never really felt them to be weak. But for building purposes, I tried it out, going heavy or lighter or whatever, just progressing. But if as it got easier, I just increased the weight. It wasn't anything fancy. It was just kind of old-fashioned style. I wasn't hard on deadlifts. I didn't even start doing deadlifts really until I went off to school the last time, working out at Gold, not was it Gold's Gym? Bally's Gym, around the corner from the house. Working out there, I started getting into deadlifts, and I really only started with one plate on each side. By the time I left there, after 4 years in and out of the gym, because I took probably like a year off and then went to go hit some calisthenics after I got into my problems. Couldn't really move around too much, so kind of more or less doing calisthenics at home. But I don't think I actually even got to doing 2 plates with deadlifts while I was over there. Like I said, I was just taking it easy and just slowly building into it. And swimming, they had a pool, so I mean it wasn't like I was in a rush to do anything. I was just taking my time. I could have done more, but backs are really really tricky sometimes. So I was real careful because if you like to play sports, you got to be more careful than others. If you like doing a lot of things, you can't let one thing just mess up everything. It's like keeping all your eggs in one basket, and it just ain't wise. If it ain't necessary, you ain't gonna necessarily see me doing it. But slow progression to whatever strength comes from the routine I'm doing, that's my thing. So coming home and getting into more deadlifts, still not overdoing it, but I think I gotten up to in Bally's here. Well, they call it Club One now, but in Bally's here, I think I remember 2 plates, maybe 245s, and I think maybe a 35 on each side. And I was just probably gotten into doing that for like 10 reps during a regular, say typical 3 set routine. Nothing fancy. Leg curls. I mean, different machines have different weights and styles of pulling with the tension and stuff like that. But it's hard to really calibrate what it was because it's not like the weights always say the same thing. But I don't know. I didn't really do always heavy weights. Sometimes, like in Orlando, I just used to start with a really light weight and do say 10 sets of 10 without any rest. Drop it to 5 reps and just increasing the weight each time with each set until I actually felt like my legs was burning and that kind of thing, to the point where I actually had to take a rest. And I'd take like a minute and then I'd probably like start over again with whatever it was, if I could still do 10, and just keep going until I get 10, 5, 3, 1 rep, and just keep working up until it got heavy. I was swimming, so that kicking motion in the pool is, growing up, that was more or less enough for me. Playing soccer, I didn't feel nobody's legs were stronger than mine. I mean, no other way to calibrate it, I guess. Until you get to the gym, you won't really know for sure, but I felt comfortable with my legs and they performing, so I didn't overstress it. But I don't know how much I did with leg curl or leg extension, to tell you the truth. So we'll go ahead and skip those. See, now back. Lat pulls. I started getting into lat pulls when I first went away to school. I was at HVA. They had like a little gym upstairs. Not for legs, but I mean, I guess you probably could have used the bar for squats if you really wanted to do it, especially if you had some spotters, that kind of thing. But I didn't do it. We was up and down stairs, so that was my leg routine for like pushing motion. That's what I considered it. I didn't do no squats. We didn't have no leg curl or leg extension. We had a lat pull, we had some dumbbells, and we had a bench press. That's what I remember. Maybe we did have a squat rack, but I probably didn't realize that's what it was at the time. Sounds strange, I know, but I actually didn't realize that's what it was for. I never seen anybody use it, so I never tried to use it or ask. So still in run around mode, basketball in the evening times, that kind of thing, up and down stairs, occasional little run around, flag football, soccer practice every now and again. That was legs. So lat pulls, I think the heaviest we had at the time there was, I think it might have said 300. So with the wide grip, regular lat pull, I can't remember if I maxed it out. This was like 17, 18 years old, so I can't remember, but I know we used to definitely max it out for a few reps at least. I don't know if it was 10 all the time, but with the reverse grip, close reverse grip, I know we was comfortably pulling that. There was a couple of us in there that was doing it too. Pretty strong dudes back in high school. Didn't always look it, but that's the clique who I used to be around. If they was exercising, yeah, let's roll. So that was then. And up to now, I really don't know if I've actually lifted more than that or attempted to, but I know I gotten into more building side because I was on the strength side then. So doing the wide grips, I think in different gyms maybe I've gotten, I don't know, whatever the full stock is. Sometimes you can pull the full stock, and some other gyms the weights just seem lighter. So it's really hard to say, but I'm gonna say it may have been close to 300 pounds. So right now I'm not in the gym, but when I do go to the park here and there, and I use the little swing set to do my pull-ups, sometimes I'll have a gallon of water in my my backpack just to add some weight to it, and I'm still not really wrapping out. Just usually the same old fashioned 3 sets of 10, or sometimes if I'm been doing them fairly often, 12, maybe 15. If I haven't done them for a while, I do like a split set of say 5 and 5, 5 wide, and say 5 to the front, for a warm up, and then I'll just put the weight on and do 10 wides, or maybe 2 sets of wides, or depending on how I feel it, 10 wides, and then do 10 reverse. So that's that. Lat pulls, reverse grip, wides, pull-ups. During the pandemic, I never, up until the pandemic hit, hadn't really tried to max out on pull-ups. But when the gym shut down and had to do something at home, I used to hang off the wall at the house where I used to stay, and just do them on the wall. I think I'd probably gotten up to maybe doing 20 pull-ups at one time, wide grip 20 pull-ups, not with a bar grip, but with my hands hanging like off of like a flat edge wall, and just doing them like that. Because we only at one point was allowed to actually go out, or even out of the neighborhood for, I don't know, like an hour, I think maybe an hour and a half or something like that at the most. I used to go get my little run in. If I happened to feel like going around the other side when we could, I'd hit my little pull-ups and stuff like that at the little park around the back. But I think 20 reps is probably my max for pull-ups. Shoulders, my typical shoulder routine when I got into the gym, typical style: lateral raises, forward raises. Typically, I'd usually start mine, if I'm in the gym and, regularly already, used to the weights, I'm usually going to start with somewhere around 10 to 15 pounds. And I do like if I start with an odd number, say if it's a 15, I'll do like a 15, I don't know, 20, 25. And as I get stronger, I've been known to go up to 30, maybe sometimes 35. Now, when I was in the gym, like I said, I worked there for like a year or so when I first came home, and I was regularly in the gym like every day. So I noticed my strength built up a little bit more. So I've done 50-pound like lateral raises before, like for 10 reps, but it wasn't like they were 100%, without moving. I did add probably maybe a little bit of a bounce into it to probably help them up, but I think that's probably my max for like shoulder work, shoulder raises, front and side. Rear rows, like bent over rows, like the typical like carpenter style, rows, old fashioned style. I've gotten up to, I think, probably 70, 75 pounds, unilaterally, one side at a time with the dumbbells. Never really gotten into too much of the actual regular full barbell, row routines. If I was into doing those, there was always some kind of machine where you could do like a cable kind of, rowing kind of style motion, which I kind of always preferred those for some reason. I don't know, but kind of really hard to calibrate the weight with those because they're kind of the same as the lat pulls. So never really gone excessively heavy with those either, but sometimes you feel like you could pull the full stock, and like I say, sometimes those particular setups are, the weights don't always feel the same. But shoulder press, dumbbell shoulder press, seated, um, I think my heaviest, say for 10 reps, maybe 60, 65 pounds. I don't know if I've ever gone more than 70, 75 pounds. If I have, it's probably not for 10 full reps, but that wasn't one of my regular things. I'd touch them sometimes, but I'd make sure I hit them at least maybe say every other workout for a while, probably 2 to 3 years. I'd probably hit them maybe, I don't know, once or twice a month seated. Standing, dumbbell press, Maybe a little bit lighter. I don't know if I've gone more than probably 45, 50 pounds standing, shoulder press with the dumbbells. But I could do more if I was to focus on them. But some people's bodies are built a little bit different. For the growth I was looking to see, shoulder press assisted, but I noticed the majority of my shoulder size coming from the lateral raises, the forward raises, the rear like flies and stuff like that. So I'd kind of focus more on those. And then when it was, time to say do heavy bench days or it was bench day, then those would be the days you probably see me warm up with more of a shoulder routine that involved, say, the shoulder press. But I still don't think it was more than 65, maybe 70 pounds seated, and probably not more than, I don't know, 50, 55 pounds standing. Curls, well, those was always one of my strongest points because that was my, earliest actual conventional weight style, exercise that I started with. So although I didn't do them all the way through, but probably maybe it's the swimming background, the breaststroke. If you know how to do that, especially after they changed the style for the format, they switched the technique. Probably close to halfway through my swimming career. I don't know, probably maybe around grade 7 or 8 or something like that. They changed it so it incorporated more bicep muscles in the stroke when the pull up, came before you actually stretch your arms out. So my curls were never really weak. Up to right now, I think my heaviest would have probably been while I was still at the gym. I think at Club One. I think concentration curls, seated concentration curls, like the old-fashioned style, where you prop your elbow on your thigh or close to your knee, and you just kind of lean over. Concentration curls, curl up, one-handed. Um, I think I might have gotten close to maybe 80 pounds. I can't remember if it was for a full 10 reps, but I know I was comfortably doing 65. And that's after I usually do those. This my strongest exercise is kind of towards the end of my routine. I don't know why. I just kind of try and save sometimes the hardest stuff or the heaviest stuff for last sometimes, unless it was squat day. But I probably could have done more. Like say if I was to only work out on say curls or any other exercise. If I was to only do those on any one particular day, I know I'd do more. But I don't know. That's how I train myself. So 65 for 10, and I think probably it was like 80 or 85 for, I think it might have been 6 or 7. Regular barbell curls, we didn't really do those. The sway bar, and I think that's what they call it in the gym, little, kind of curly looking kind of bar. In Club One, our weights I think only went up to like maybe said 120 on each side, and those always felt kind of light, so I figured those would probably just split in half and probably just run out to like 60 pounds. If they were to, I guess, be able to split the weight, it'd probably be the equivalent of 60 pounds, one-handed. So I don't think that actually counts, but let me see if I can remember actually putting any actual other weight on the bar. Oh yeah, in school, when I got the fitness segment at Florida College, of Natural Health over there in Maitland. When we got to our fitness segment, I had on the typical, Olympic bar, one plate on each side that I did for I think probably 8 straight reps. Did a couple of seconds, rest, and then I just finished my last 2. I think that would have probably been. No, wait. There was a neighborhood gym across the street from this girl I used to know over there. Went over there and cranked up. I think that was that the sway bar or was that the Olympic bar? I don't know. I just remember this other dude from, I don't know, the islands, or I don't know, maybe Africa or something like that, was trying to tell me, stop me from, say, hey, take it easy, or stop me from lifting the weight. But I think I had 145 on it, and probably had, it was either 25 pounds or 35 pounds on each side, and I probably maybe cranked it maybe twice, whatever that is. I don't know. I think that's probably it for curls. Bench press, the exciting part people like to talk about. I think it was probably in that same gym on the incline. I had gotten two plates on each side and a 35-pound plate on each side. I think I had done that like maybe twice. I don't know if I psyched myself out or trying to go for the full three plates or whatever, but remember, this is after me hearing what the teacher had said in school, that sometimes you go to these places, these plates where you see on the bars and stuff you see, they're not always exactly what you see. Some of them are not the same type of material and are for probably experimental purposes are twice the amount of weight. So whatever it was, that's what I had on it. So two plates on each side and a 35-pound on the other side for 2 reps. Flat bench. I'm trying to remember. I know when I got off of my problematic point when I was able to move around, I went to the gym next to where the Magic played. They had a community center over there, and I started working out there for maybe about a month or two before. Well, I just decided for, I don't know, to cool off or whatever it is. I don't know what it was, but over there, I remember I think I had 3 plates each side on the flat bench, and I really can't remember if I tried to crank it up or if I just sat there and looked at it, and then God probably told me, there's nobody around to spot me if something happens, and then just let it go. Which is kind of how I like to train. I don't really always work with, say with a workout partner, training partner for that kind of thing. So it partly kind of keeps you humble, keeps you, keeps me, I guess I should say, from trying to do too much. Because sometimes, you can feel real good, and then I've had instances where you just pop goes the weasel, stuff just snaps, cracks, or popples, sometimes whatever it is. And like I said, if you're an athlete, especially if you're a good one, you don't necessarily want to risk silly injuries just from, you know, always trying to seek personal gains that ain't necessarily going to get you nothing much. So if it ain't worthwhile, I don't always risk it per se like that. So, but I know I've had, since I've been home, I've had the same weight on, 2 plates, 35-pound plates, and I know that's gone up on a regular bar. Now, I've done, like I said, when I came through the immigration system, we didn't have no weights in there, so I know I used to put people on my back and stuff. They'd have to push on my back to add some weight to my push-ups. So coming home, I worked out, I think my heaviest, I don't know, but you could calculate it yourself. Smith machines, I was told, not always the same weights either. Some of those cables on there have tension on them. I don't know if it's magnetic or whatever, if it's some kind of, what's the thing they call, hydraulic kind of tension or something like that on it. But before I went off to school, my heaviest at the gym I used to train at on Blake Road here, community center, I think I'd probably gotten, I know I'd done 10 reps, 10 or 12 reps with 245s and the 25s on there. And it felt kind of, I wouldn't say it felt kind of light, but I mean, it didn't really feel that hard. I felt like I could always push more, but for some reason, the machine just, I don't know, I'd say it either didn't seem to let me push more, or I don't know if, sometimes God just says, don't push that much. So regardless of what you think you could do or feel you could do, sometimes the bar just don't go up like that. I don't know. You've been lifting off it enough, long enough, you probably experienced some kind of things. Probably just not having explained to you in that kind of way. But if you do, sometimes he does do that. Well, they did have the same Smith machine anyway. When I came home, they had some regular conventional numbered weights, and they had some, I guess, kind of off-brand or other conventional older weights with some different numbering on it. So I've had 2 plates, 35. There was like I think it was a 33 and 25. 25? There was a 25 for sure, and then there was another. What's the other? They had some kind of something. It was, I don't know if it was a 22 or 20 something else. Anyway, but two plates plus the 35s plus the 33s. I know I crank that up regularly for probably maybe five, maybe six reps, whatever that equates to. And it didn't feel that heavy. That was when I first got home, coming out of Chrome or out of Glades, I guess detention center, immigration place or whatever. So that was like within my first few months, I think, of coming home. I just probably wanted to just see what, how strong I'd gotten compared to when I had left, as well as after having been in the, immigration system and only having people to, say stand on my back or kneel on my back while I was in there to do push-ups to see what it changed, if I had gained, lost strength or whatever. But whatever those add up to, I will say I did throw, I think, on the last little, it might have been 21 or 22 pounds or whatever like that on top of the 25s. And I didn't come all the way down with it. It was more or less, I'd say maybe a 3/4 press. I didn't bring it all the way down, but I brought it down to near my chest level. But if you know anything about bench pressing, it's not exactly the same. It wasn't really chest activation, depth where I actually brought it down to. It was more or less just arm strength. But fully arm strength, whatever you get when you add up the 245s, the 35, the 33 on each side, plus whatever the weight of the actual bar on the Smith machine is. I know when you have it on there with nothing on it, you could actually slightly move it up, and because of the cable, it feels really light, and it kind of glides up and then comes back down. But somebody said it weighs like 65 pounds. But if you happen to be on one of those where it's got the cable, remember, you don't know what's at the bottom of them cables or what is attached to underneath. So if there is something in there that can increase or decrease tension without you knowing, or if you haven't realized that it's actually possible to do that, sometimes that's how that machine actually feels. So I really don't know what to say, but if you could only go by the weight that's on it, that's the most amount of weight I've ever had on the bench press, at least in that particular gym. Now, I don't know what's heavier, but I will say the conventional weights, the Olympic bar that I did in Orlando, across the street from Old Girl, or at the place over there by the Magic, or even since I came home at Fantasy, I think those were my heaviest lifts. But they were all the same weight, 220, 245s and 235s on each side. So I don't know what that equates to y'all, but I find it strange if it's only, say, let me see, on the flat bench before I went away, I was doing, Crystal Palace had they had a 55-pound plate actually, 55, 45, and without a warm-up, I know I cranked that up, but before I left, I don't think I was, let me see, bars 45, 245 is 180, 225, I don't think I was pushing more than 275, 280 before I left home. And after lifting, exercising straight through for the 4 years I was over there, to come home, gain size. I did gain quite a bit of weight while I was over there compared to what people I guess usually had seen me as. But because I'd been in the wherever that place was for a few months, I did lose a bit more size. So I didn't come home quite looking, I guess, like how I was over there during my last year or two. But from saying 275-ish, maybe 280 before I left, and then coming back home and 225 plus 70 to be benching seemingly the same thing whilst feeling stronger, I don't know. It brings me back to what the professor says. Some of these things are what they are, and some of these things aren't what they seem. But whatever it is, that's what it was. I kind of think what I was pushing in the community center on Blake Road may have been a bit more, though, for some reason. And when I was away, I think those also might have been what the man was actually saying. There's no way I could actually increase on everything else, but on the actual plates, Olympic plates, for some reason, to have not seem to have gained that much strength, whilst knowing I've gotten stronger. I don't know. That's just me, but if y'all experience anything similar, I don't know. It's not like I entered any powerlifting competitions or anything like that, but if I was to put it into perspective, what it could have been on the weight, I would have been probably, when I had the two plates on there and the 35s, let's see, that's 225 plus the 70, 295. Used to times that by 2. What's that, like 580 or something like that? I was on that. But it would have been probably closer to 700 if you added up the ones on the Smith machine, if that's what those actually really were. I think I worked it out at one point based on what I was told to like just under 670 or somewhere around there. And here at my heaviest, I don't think I've ever been over more than 195, which was what I was probably around at the time when I actually did that. It wasn't too long after I had gotten home. I hadn't lost a whole lot of weight, but I think I came home somewhere around there, 195-ish, or maybe close to 2, maybe 2, somewhere around there. I see these guys powerlifting and stuff like that, and the heaviest, I think the record is like maybe 700 without, support straps or anything like that. And these guys are like 300-400 pounds. Some of them even bigger. I'm 6 feet tall. Right now, I'm back to wearing high school size waist pants, 32 waist, 32, 33 length pants. Maybe, I don't know if the shirts I wear now might be a little bit bigger, but still more or less wearing extra large size shirts for the most part. 10.5 shoe. Haven't really measured biceps or anything like that since really actually doing the trainer course in school for myself, I should say. So I don't really keep up with my bicep measurements and stuff like that. I go by feel. I learned that if you have clients and they're all interested in weight loss and weight gain and this, that, and the next thing, when they come to work out, bring a pair of jeans, not the stretchy jeans, or a pair of, like Dickies kind of khaki style pants where the waist won't stretch. And make sure when you bring them, when you take your measurements, that they fit perfectly, like to your waist then, not tight, just how they fit. And as you work out, every now and again, throw them on and see how they fit. Do the same thing with a shirt. If you notice if it's getting tight, or if it's getting, a little bit kind of loose, and you gain or loss, or an idea of the size you actually are compared to, what you were when you started. Take it from me, it does make a big difference. I went from size 30, well, I was wearing 34s when I went over there, but I was still kind of, not sagging. I never used to sag, but I never used to like my pants tight too much like that. But now I kind of just wear them regular style, so I'm at a 32. I'll probably buy 33 waist pants, but right now I'm wearing 32s and they fit fairly comfortably, say, without having to need to put on a belt, but I still wear a belt. When I got quote unquote deconditioned, when I went through all that insomnia, whatever, sleep deprivation type shit, some of which still goes on, so it ain't 100%. But when I went that stretch for like 3.5 years without sleep, while I was running track, I had to shut down, and like I said, my workouts had gone from what I had been doing to sometimes just maybe going for a half-hour walk or so like that, maybe twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week, 5 push-ups or so, sometimes once a week or maybe twice a week. Little 5-minute routine that you see me posted on here whenever I posted it recently or a long time ago, that kind of thing. Curls, maybe, just some light stuff once a week. My little gallon bottle routine where I do my shoulders and stuff like that, because I didn't have, I wasn't actually in the gym. doing those shoulders or my speed curls, for curls or stuff like that. You only have like maybe I think a 30 pound bar after you did mix and match the weights on them at home. So my waist had gotten up to, I think I was wearing, even I bought 38 size waist, and it wasn't like I was looking fit. I didn't like how I looked. I got a picture on there from my probably my last days of Facebook, and I didn't even look like I was flicking human. They got these filters you could put on your pictures and stuff. One of my arms in the picture looked like it was bigger than the other one, and all them kind of things. And that ain't never been the case per se. But looking at me, if I didn't have boy boobs since I was like 12, 13 years old. You grow up and you stretch them out. When I started seeing them, I was like, yeah, whatever it is, whatever it was. Some people just don't like fitness. And the devil don't like all temples. Sorry, the devil don't like God's temple. Especially when he see you doing things with it that would make him happy with it. But that's the breakdown of, I guess, my stats, you could say, that I remember. As far as benching, lifting, powerlifting, weights, whatever it is. Speed records, sports records. I don't know. I swam for like close to 10 years. I took one year off, I think 8th grade, to go do some jujitsu or something like that. And I only came back because I didn't like the weight that I had started to put on. It wasn't nowhere near the amount or the intensity of the workout of a typical swimming routine, which I had gotten used to doing twice a week for more or less since like second grade. Halfway through second grade, I think I started the swim team. So that was my routine, without even mentioning the daily running around on the field and stuff playing, or got to high school the daily basketball or the regular twice a week PE classes we used to have. So I don't have any speed records. It wasn't like I was the big standout swimmer. I knew I was fast, but I didn't take it, I guess, seriously enough all the time to say, if unless it was a relay. I was burned out. I was told, back in them days, oh, you eat 2 hours before you get into the pool. If not, you're gonna cramp up, all kind of things, and that just stuck in my head. So a lot of the times, I come to find out, we was training or competing at deficits. A lot of us, at least on our team. I don't know if the other teams used to train the same way. So I have no idea what I could have actually done in swimming, but I wasn't slow. I know at some points, at some of the longer races, I wasn't no big endurance person. I will say that. 200 meters, or you could expect to catch some laughs off of me in the pool. I coming in struggling after the first 100 and 150, struggling. I am no 100 meters freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, yeah, butterfly. You could expect me to look like a beginner. Even in the hundreds, I used to come home struggling until I got a little bit older. And I noticed it got a little bit better, a little bit stronger. Strangely though, I find it's a lot easier to do them kind of things now, that I don't typically, I don't really follow the same dietary advice, I guess, as that been put into us from a young age. I make sure I eat at least a little something before a workout now. Might not be right away, but pool workout, I'll still, even if it's just a banana or a granola bar, I'll hit one of those before I do a little simple swim routine. And I notice it's a whole lot easier to do now. Our school mile run back in the day, we used to have what we used to call run day or school run day. We used to run a mile, and I don't think I think my fastest time in high school might have been like a minute and a half, or I mean, what was it 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes, I think it was, something like that. 6 minutes, roughly 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes. I think that might have been my fastest mile in school, and that was kind of a struggle too, because it's not like we used to train to do that. But 100 meters in school, it wasn't no Olympic style, time, and the coach used just to, stand us down there, mark out the pitch and everything, and you just start from what we assume was the 100 meters, but I guess they'd marked it out. My time then at St. Andrews, they quote unquote said it was 11:45. Now, I don't know if it was or not, but I didn't make the relay team or the sprint team for track day when I used to go to inter sports and stuff like that. But the guys who did that last race, I don't know if they went all out or not, but we finished like neck and neck. So if that's, I don't know, whatever it was, but that's what I was told. Coach said it was like 11:45. Stateside went to high school again after that, 11 and 12 again. After finishing here, grade 11, we didn't have a track team either. We played soccer or basketball. I got cut from the basketball team when I tried out for my second year. I didn't try the first year, but soccer was my thing all through primary school and high school. And I know I had made All American and all them kind of things like that. I think probably both years. And I know my first year I was like second in the nation in scoring or something like that. I didn't know that until somebody on the team brought me the newspaper and said, "Hey, you made the paper." I was like, really? Oh, okay. Didn't hear anything about it the second year, so I don't know if they had the same stats or papers. I don't know. Didn't post it, whatever it was, but I don't know if that's a record, second in the nation in Maryland. It sounded pretty cool, but we only really played like maybe 6 or 7 games per season, so I don't know. I didn't really take it too seriously, but it was what it was. Still sounded cool anyhow. So maybe that's a record. But on average, I used to probably score maybe once, sometimes twice per game, pretty much every game throughout my soccer career. Primary school, St. Andrews, even HBA. I didn't actually play on the first uh, on the soccer team after I got to college my first year. They told me, yeah, come, we'd be interested in you because you're fast and all that kind of things. And you, like, I think I was like 185 pounds when I finished high school. Yeah, you got some, probably pretty good size and speed. So, come on, let's come to St. Leo and let's play some soccer. Didn't actually get to play. I got redshirted or whatever that was. So I don't know what that means, but apparently it means they kind of quote unquote say they're going to assign you to the team, but not actually play you. I guess like a bench player or something like that, and then like extend my school time by a year or something like that. Now, ordinarily, based on the surroundings, I'd have been happy to do so if I'd had a scholarship, but I didn't have one. So parents paying the bill. I didn't ask nobody to extend my school time by a whole year. Who paying for that? We already paying for the first one. If it was a scholarship, then yeah, sure. But I dipped out after 2 years and went to go play golf. Golfing was another one of my big things, straight through. From, I think I started playing my first tournament, I was like 9 years old. They didn't really have a whole lot of junior stuff, so we used to play with the guys, the grown folks and stuff like that. And it was more or less just netball, net tournaments, a couple of gross tournaments. But my best junior golf round, well, it was rare sometimes to get in a tournament where the majority of us were under 90 in 18 holes. But I think locally, I don't know if I ever actually maybe scored better than 81 or 82 for 18 holes in a tournament. Now, practice time and messing around, especially after high school when I worked there during the summer, yeah, I'd play casual rounds. And I know I'd play speed golf because, at work and stuff like that, you can't necessarily be out there at your leisure. So I used to just put my bag on, and if things look real slow around the course, especially in my area, and people not playing, load up my station with the balls so people could have them when they're ready to go out, which was my job. After that, I hit the course. Now, I've been known to blaze probably 18 holes in maybe just an hour or so with a cotton, just cruising. Not no lining up a bunch of shots, just hurrying them, getting them. But I could say my lowest round would have been a 9-hole round. It was like 2 under at the old South Ocean course. That's before I think they switched it around, which would have been like, I don't know, early 90s. It was like national and amateur. Not gonna say it was the same on the back nine, but that first round, first nine did start out pretty hot. Whatever happened, I don't know. Like how they say on, oh, you go on the back nine and blew up. That's an old joke. But yeah, that's 2 under. I think was my 9-hole lowest round, probably ever actually. But 18 holes. I think one time when I was away at my sister's graduation, I think, played around with the old man and one of his friends, and their son came out and played probably, I think it was 18 holes. I don't know, I hadn't really been playing regularly, but I've been chipping a lot in my aunt's house around the yard today. But I think I probably shot maybe one over this after not playing for like years. Like, no, I think I maybe had played one round before I got there while I was in Orlando. But regularly to say actually swinging out and stuff like that, it had been years. But it was like a one over. And that's one of my last probably official real actual golf rounds on my own ball. So I know the skill's still there, but I'd have to say one over may have been my official legal lowest score, lowest 18 holes. Track, well, officially, I still got that video up there on YouTube from my official last track workout right before Nationals, and I was like the next run after that, I'd kind of strained my calf, so that was like the end of my track career, or what could have been, or what would have been supposed track career. I ran for like 3.5 years. And it just so happened it was around the same time all that sleep chip was going on. So yeah, for the full track season, track career, no sleep at all. Okay, 2 hours in 3.5 years. But whatever that says on the clock is what it says. Unofficially or officially, I don't know. I don't trust the clocks, but if you training and training and training and somebody's clock says you're getting slower, your clock says you're getting faster, you feel faster, get another opinion. But the camera clock, the video don't lie, unless there's more than 24 hours in a day, or more or less than 60 seconds in a minute, or more or less than 60 minutes in an hour. Time ain't gonna lie. Sped up, slow it down, the clock's still gonna say what it say. But that's enough on that. Back to golf. I don't have any tennis records. I never played an official tennis tournament per se, but I know I could play. I was one of the better players as a junior in the camps we used to play at, but didn't have the, I wouldn't say the competition. I kind of had to choose, I guess, at one point between golf and tennis, and I kind of went with golf. So the summer camps I used to go to, summertime used to be tennis in the morning, golf in the afternoon. Probably for budget purposes or whatever, I decided to choose one, so I chose golf. And I played tennis, I guess for a little bit for a couple of years, just for exercise and trying to see what it was still like, if I could still get into it. I didn't have a backhand much when I was young, but I had a backhand slice, which used to be, I mean, sometimes just as good. But I worked on my backhand, my serve, and that was my main two glitches as far as tennis when I was younger. Everything else was solid, but I don't know, it's just maybe lack of interest, maybe lack of tournaments, lack of funding for sure. I don't have no tennis records like that. Swimming, I don't know if I've ever gone under, I think my fastest 100 might have been 101 or something like that, 105 maybe. A minute and 5 seconds, that's like in a 25-meter pool. 50 free, those are my two favorite races. I don't think I actually got ever under 25 seconds for 50 free, not in high school meet. I've gotten faster since then, but I don't remember seeing a time for myself ever under really 26 seconds. Is it the same now? No. But does it mean that the guys that was winning them races back in them days didn't get faster? I don't know. I don't see them swimming. I see one or two look like they're still in shape, but I gotta ask them their opinion on if they feel they've gotten faster since the high school days or the college days or not. And it'd be a valid opinion because we got a couple of Olympians that actually, came from here. So those guys, they would be the ones to know, especially the ones that's still around. Girls too. I didn't swim in the girls category, but I didn't rule that out. So if, like I said, I do happen to pop up in the pool at a Masters meet, at some point, I don't know what to expect, but I probably wouldn't be out of gas like how I used to be in the 200s, even not in the 100s. But I don't know. What other records or PRs could I say I have? Driving. My longest drive, that's hard to say. The only one that I've ever actually had measured, if it was accurate in a tournament, was like 97, or I think it was 97. I played one tournament at Lightfoot Key, and there was a long drive hole, and it kind of felt kind of cheated. I won the long drive, mind you, but the ball hit and plugged, right? Like it literally plugged and then maybe just probably bounced. I don't know if it was more than a foot from where it actually landed. So, but I think that was like 315, 320 carry off the tee. And that's with the old Judge driver I had, Founders Club Judge. And that happened to be before all the weightlifting and, back in the pool and stuff like that. Now I've hit some where I've drove some greens, like I said. I don't know if it was longer or shorter, but in Bermuda, I don't know if it was Port Royal or which one of them tournaments. I played with a couple of guys on an off day from the tournament, a couple of long ball hitters. One dude who actually, if he probably swung the same club, I've probably seen somebody swing as close to as hard as I swing, or possibly even harder. I don't know if I can mention his name. I don't know. I think it might have been Sean Carruthers or something like that. But they got some hard swingers around this planet. I don't know. I don't know if my swing looked the same to him as his swing looked to me. But although I hit it past him, maybe he just hit it off on that particular day. I don't know. But I know I drove the green over the green actually. It's like a par four. I don't know. It's like 430, 450 or something. I kind of cut the corner over the trees, and when I found the ball, it was kind of ran up underneath of a coconut tree off the back of the green. Now, I don't know if it hit the tree and stopped, or if it stopped before it got to the tree and probably could have gone further. I don't know. It was slightly downwind too, and partially I think slightly downhill. But flat out, I really don't know. Maybe I need to go out there and get one of these new gadgets that can actually tell you the exact pinpoint distance where you actually, have the carry, calculated, as well as the total distance and everything. But old-fashioned style, when we only had the little 150 markers standard, 200, 250 in the middle of the fairway, or little, trees or bushes marked out on the side if you didn't get your little sprinkler head distance here and there. I'd have to say at sea level here, I'm pretty sure I've hit at least one or two close to 400 or maybe over 4. It wouldn't have been recently because I haven't been playing that often. This would have been like fresh out of high school days while still in junior golf, possibly even still in my half a year while I was in college playing golf at St. Aug's. I don't know. But college golf, they take a bit more seriously. It's not like I was trying to swing wild and reckless and stuff like that just to only hit it far. Things working out, playing well, things getting a little bit drastic when you see the scores coming in. If you're in the run or not. Sometimes it makes sense to try and keep going. If you see after a day or two things ain't really looking up, you owe it to yourself to enjoy the rest of your round. You ain't necessarily in the picture for the winnings. So yeah, sometimes I'd still go ahead and crank it up. Fully cranked up, not ordinarily, but still, I still don't know if I've hit any over there in tournaments near 400, but then that's higher altitude and colder weather and all them kind of things, so you don't get the same amount of carry and distance off your clubs over there like that. But I know I've been around, typically cruising off the tee over there with the Judge, 280, 290, powered up a little bit, easily 310, 20, 30 off the tee. Carry or total distance is still, PGA style distance anyway. We were on them kind of caliber players. I don't know what else stats I could actually think of. Didn't play no organized basketball, baseball, softball and stuff like that. I don't know if you could really pitch it. They call it a jugs gun. I went to some kind of, I don't know, some kind of park or something that we went to at I was at St. Leo, the first college. They had this machine. It's like, I guess it calibrates your pitching speed. And I think I threw, I don't know, it was maybe 75. Let's call it 75. I can't remember the exact thing, but it was kind of mid 70s on it. So the dude came